Welcome back to Crimson Ed Talks. I'm your host, Jamie, and today I'm sitting down with one of our stars at Crimson, Shadman, who's a two-time graduate of some of the best universities in the world, Duke and Stanford. And we're going to be talking about the hot-off-the-press admission cycle, where we just broke records for having now more than 800 Ivy League offers globally, 85 offers to just Ivy Leagues in the early round, and 13 Stanford, which is a global record in our industry. Shadman, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, I'm so excited. Walk me through some of these success stories. It's really incredible what we've seen this cycle.
Absolutely. There's a number of really epic ones. So, one example that comes to mind is a student of ours. His name's Artie. Now, Artie was a student who worked with us for nearly 3 years, I think, maybe 4. And he basically was really passionate about not just getting into any school, but really the most elite schools in the world. His goal was schools like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford. Now, he was a student very passionate about economics, and one of the things that he developed was this thing called the Economics Review, an amazing podcast where he interviewed different academics around the world, business leaders, media folks, and that became an amazing initiative with more than 120 episodes. You can actually catch that at theeconomicsreview.com. He also launched an initiative called Soundraise, where he raised nearly 20K USD to actually fund musical instruments across different schools in his community, and he self-studied about 10 APs, absolutely crushing it. And then fast forward, he wrote an amazing application essay about his love for heavy metal rock music, his love for groups like, Metallica and Iron Maiden. And then, guess where he got into?
Let's say Harvard.
That's good. That's a good guess. He got into Yale, Stanford, and Wharton. So definitely in that level. Amazing. And now he's rocking it at Stanford, and he's got the whole California experience happening, which I know you're very familiar with your love for Stanford.
Who do you think had some of the more challenging experience or more inspiring stories?
So we actually had a student get into MIT from Thailand, and it was super interesting because the student actually had an SAT score below 1400. And it was really illuminating because he, of course, got the 800 in math, and, his score was getting dragged down by that English, but he had an amazing Math Olympiad performance. And it really goes to show the power of those Math Olympiad medals in driving admission to MIT. MIT's criteria is quite different to many other universities, where they focus quite intensively on about 60 key global competitions, and in particular about 17 across summer programs, competitions and stuff. And they use these to kind of filter these elite academic kids. So their criteria is quite different to many of the Ivy League schools. And also they're not in the application process. So MIT actually took a number of our kids this year, and it was really interesting to see some of the differences between the typical MIT admit and our Ivy League admits.
Wow. That's so cool. That is really inspiring. Like to bring you from below 1400 to MIT. That's incredible. Any students to your alma mater that you're really excited to share a little bit about?
Absolutely. So one of our students from Shanghai, China, he was at a public school and he received an offer to Harvard. He also got into Columbia as well as Cambridge University. Now, this student was really quite special. He loved music and he also loved physics and engineering. And so he actually developed this auto-tuning violin project, which sounds pretty wacky, but let me describe what he did. So he worked with various mentors in computer-aided design and computer science to develop this, which basically plugs into a violin peg and then helps to tune it automatically. So he was able to get patents for this project, and that became his flagship extracurricular for Harvard. He also tackled a bunch of APs. He took not 1, not 2, not 8, not 12, but 15 APs self-study with a lot of support from the team. And he went ahead and did 3, then 4, then 8. And that was alongside his public school curriculum. So many students say, hey, like my school doesn't offer that many APs. This school offered none. And this boy took 15. So that was a really inspiring example of that grit and determination required to build out that amazing standardized testing strategy. And probably the other interesting thing about him is he actually played a sport called floorball. And floorball, it's not your typical hockey or, football. And it was a niche sport, but he really loved it. And he was able to get experiences both playing competitively as well as volunteering, doing some coaching for younger kids. And that helped to round off the application. So that's a really interesting example of a clean Harvard admit, one of the most saucy, difficult things to pull off in the world of college admissions.
What do you think were the big needle movers this year? What were the big trends that you saw that really led Crimson to just build the success?
So many of our students complete these incredible capstone projects, from students that built water filtration projects to kids that, developed interesting charities for areas like cerebral palsy, to students who built apps which detected air quality in China. and told you indirectly how many cigarettes you smoked by inhaling this, bad air quality. Really interesting projects like that. So I think these capstone projects, which many of our clients spend many years developing with our team, is one such powerful example. The next is we don't muck around when it comes to standardized testing. We want to really make sure our students smash the SAT and the ACT. They build up an incredible standardized testing strategy for things like the APs or the A levels or the IB, and they're going in actually with a big advantage over their peers with those tests. Next up, we really went hard on research this year. Many of our kids were published in global research publications from, for example, paleobiology all the way through to the Concord Review. We had 45 global finalists for John Locke, including the winner for the junior category. So all of these different, awards and activities really helped our students to stand out. And I think one of the last pieces of the equation I'd touch on is the application essays. In an era where there's, unlimited access to these, AI tools, which, kids really shouldn't be using, there's a lot of, I would say, commoditization in application essays. But we really work with our students to develop really unique narratives that are extremely differentiated to help them stand out. One of my students who's now at Brown University wrote about her interesting condition where she actually falls asleep quite randomly. And she fell asleep in a bookshop in the middle of Seoul, and she woke up and there was a security guard around her. There were some different patrons and they were really freaking out. And the essay was this kind of hilarious story about all the funny places that she had fallen asleep in and, this interesting trait and experience she'd been through. It was almost like a, social experiment that she was experiencing live. So the last category is those application essays. And we're really good at helping kids find that niche they often don't expect and then making that a very powerful essay, ultimately with this coordinated Crimson team, and then boom, getting those results. And we're really proud of passing 800 Ivy League offers, a world record in our space.
Wow, incredible. And I bet that experience must be so fun for the students too, to really get a better understanding of themselves and come out with a pretty big win too.
Absolutely. And, it's been 10 years of Crimson now, and we see our students now working at McKinsey in New York, like our students, for example, Gia and Charlotte, all the way to our students. One of our kids, Brendan, recently sold his company to Amazon Web Services after graduating Harvard. Other folks like Lucas is now Warburg Pincus and Wall Street, post-graduating Harvard here in New York City. Another one of our students, Nathaniel, raised millions from Bain Capital as a 19-year-old to build his own venture. So wow. Crimson kids, they're taking over. Thanks so much for coming on the show today, Shadman. Really fun to celebrate what has been an incredible year for our students. We're so proud of them.
Of course, super fired up, Jamie, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the cycle brings.